Okay, day 2 of inverse trig functions really is just adding another step. We're still like looking for an angle, and then once we get that angle, then it's going to ask you something else about that angle. So it's really the same kind of thing you did yesterday, except for that added step. So when you see this, you're going to do what's in the parentheses first. You should see inverse cosine. So you're looking for the angle who has a cosine of 1/2. So that's like what you did yesterday. So what angle has a cosine of 1/2? That would be pi over 3. So you're going to evaluate what's in the parentheses first. Inverse cosine of 1/2 is pi over 3. Then the question becomes, what's the sine of pi over 3? Sine of pi over 3 is the y value, so that's radical 3 over 2. So it's just a two-step problem. Number 2, inverse sine. So you're looking for the angle that has a sine of negative 1/2. So remember, sine is in the fourth quadrant when it's negative. So I'd be going radical 3 over 2 over and 1/2 down. So that's at negative pi over 6. So then the question becomes, what's the tangent of that angle, negative pi over 6? Tangent is y over x. Let me write the ordered pair for that. Radical 3 over 2, negative 1/2. So when I take y over x, I'm going to get negative 1/2 over radical 3 over 2. But remember, when you multiply by 2, the 2's are going to go away. So you're left with negative 1 over radical 3, which when we rationalize that denominator, we get negative radical 3 over 3. Okay, so we first had to figure out the angle and then find the tangent of that angle. Tangent is y over x. All right, number 3. Again, I'm looking for an angle that has a tangent of radical 3. So again, I'm not quite sure what that one is. I'm going to draw a picture of that one. That's y over x. So y is radical 3, x is 1. When I use Pythagorean theorem, 3 plus 1 is 4, so this would be a 2. Square root of 4 is 2. So I drew a picture of my angle, and really now I should know that the cosine is 1 over 2, the sine is radical 3 over 2, so that is pi over 3. So I really could say that's the secant of pi over 3. I really, though, now that I do the picture, don't have to do that, because even if I don't know what this angle is, I drew the picture to show that the tangent of that angle is radical 3. I want to know what's the secant. Secant is the reciprocal of the cosine. Cosine is 1/2, so the secant is going to be 2 over 1. So I really could do this one without knowing that angle of pi over 3. All right, inverse cosine of negative radical 3 over 2. So inverse cosine is over here. If I go negative radical 3 over 2 and over and 1/2 up, that angle is 5 pi over 6. So I want to know the cosecant. Well, again, if you think about that angle, the sine of that angle, the y value of that angle, would be 1/2. So if I'm going to take the cosecant, it's a reciprocal of that, so that's 2. This one's a little bit different. You got to be careful. First, it asks you what's the sine of negative 7 pi over 6. So now they give you the angle. So let's draw negative 7 pi over 6. So over this way, it's a negative angle. So the sine of that angle will be 1/2. And so then the question becomes, what is the inverse sine of 1/2? So I fill this in, I get 1/2. Now the question is, what's the inverse sine of 1/2? But be careful of this one. You have to realize that 1/2, or inverse sine, the range of answers has to be here. So when the sign is positive, I know it's in the first quadrant. So it switched quadrants. And so what angle has a sine of 1/2? Pi over 6. So they have the same reference angle, these two, but because we do inverse sine of a positive in the first quadrant, we actually have to end up naming it in the first quadrant. All right, number 6, sine of 5 pi over 6. Here's 5 pi over 6. The sine is 1/2. So now I'm looking for inverse cosine of 1/2. What angle has a cosine of 1/2? Well, that's going to be over in the first quadrant. I'm going to go 1/2 over radical 3 over 2 up. That is pi over 3. So again, we just found the sine of 5 pi over 6, it's 1/2, and then found the inverse cosine. What angle has a cosine of 1/2? All right, now these are probably angles we don't know. Inverse sine of 1/3. So I'm going to draw the picture of that. It's in the first quadrant. Y over R And so I need to figure out x. So if I take x squared plus 1 squared equals 3 squared, 9 minus 1 is 8. So x squared is 8. Square root of 8, simplified, is 2 radical 2. So that's the x value. So if this is my angle, I can call it theta, whatever I want to call it, alpha, beta. I want to find the tangent of that angle. Tangent is y over x. So y over x, I need to rationalize, multiply by radical 2 over radical 2. On the top I get radical 2. On the bottom I'm going to get 2 times square root of 4 is 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So radical 2 over 4. Alright, inverse tan of 1/2. I don't believe I know that one. I'll draw the picture. This is y over x. Y is 1, x is 2. There's my angle. So if I take 2 squared plus 1 squared equals r squared, 4 plus 1 is 5, so it looks like it's radical 5. So I want to know what's the secant of that angle I just drew. Secant is the reciprocal of the cosine. So cosine is 2 over radical 5, so secant is radical 5 over 2. It's the reciprocal of the cosine, so it's r over x. Alright, we have inverse sine of radical 2 over 3. So we're going to draw that picture. Y over, radical 2. Y over r. So if I take radical 2 squared plus x squared equals 3 squared, I'm going to get 9 minus 4. I believe x is also radical 5. Does that sound right? No. How about 9? How about radical 7? That sounds better. Radical 7 sounds better. So I'm taking 9 minus 2. So that's radical 7. The question is, what's the cosine of that angle? So it's going to be x over r. So it's radical 7 over 3. And then the last one, inverse sine is negative down here. So this is y over r, so r is 5, y is negative 2 radical 5, so I have to find x. So x squared plus negative 2 radical 5 squared equals 5 squared. When you square this, you're going to get 4 times 5, so you're going to get 20. Subtract 20, get x is radical 5 again. Because x squared is 5, so x is square root of 5. So the question is, what's the secant of that angle? Secant's reciprocal. Cosine is radical 5 over 5. So secant is 5 over radical 5. And then I need to rationalize. Multiply by radical 5 over radical 5. I'm going to get 5 radical 5 on the top. In the denominator, I'm going to get 5, because I get the square root of 25. The 5's cancel, so I'm left with radical 5. Okay, so that's the front side. It's just basically doing whatever's inside here first. So if it's an inverse and you need to draw the picture of that angle, draw that, and then you finish the problem. If it's one where I give you the angle, you're looking for the trig value of that angle. It's one you should know. And then you're looking for the angle that has that sine or cosine. Okay? All right, that's page 1.